Things are a bit iffy with the game capture, but anyways. We're live. Looks like this is another stream where I'll have to use window capture instead of the game capture. I've used... Okay, format secure. We're live now. Games. That's not a good... We're already off to a good start with... Alright, so yeah. I figured that rather than show off the setup, which is honestly one of the more boring and tedious things in the game, I really wish they'd just let you save a setup state for each game. I figured I'd do it ahead of time and set up everything. Which is why normally, whereas the game starts at 12, I'm not sure why they don't just have it start at the beginning of each day, since this uses military time, so it's not like midnight. I guess it could be engine limitations, but anyways, long story short, I set up everything ahead of time. Alright, so if you've read the title and the description, you might be wondering, how do I plan on surviving, let alone beating in Germany and the USSR? As far as I know, there's no way you can get an early war with Germany, and by early I mean before they annex Austria. Which, honestly, that would actually be very easy to tackle. Well, since Poland actually starts out with a bigger army than Germany. Like, if this had a 1933 start date, I could actually see, an option where you'd be able to, press the French to intervene. But still. Not going to show off the music just yet. But anyways, what I've done is, first I divided my existing troops up into 2 army groups. I'm going to convert these 10 cavalry and 2 mountaineers into the standard infantry division, just for the sake of having the same template eventually, but I want more rifles. Now, right now my objective is getting manpower in the field. For production, and I would like to make Toad AA, but unfortunately, I don't have the factories to do so. At least not without cutting back on something else. I don't need artillery yet, but I will eventually, since I'm gonna want to have a support company on this, and also I have something else in mind. Basic research. Poland doesn't really have much of an air force or a navy at the start, but it does have some, so I just grouped those up. And I'm building an intelligence center. Not Poland didn't have much of an industry at this point, unfortunately. So, how do I plan on beating Germany and the USSR? We're going to deviate from the standard historical path. I've already chosen in which one, but just for which path, but let's explain the reason why. This is the historical path. It's where the dictatorship of Ignacy Mosicki, I hope I pronounced that right, stays in power, and you can either have him stay in power, or you can have somewhat of a democracy. Not in the same sense, but it's closer to democracy than it is at the start. Alright. Alright, but I'd rather not do that since, well, it's not exactly very interesting to me. This path is actually the shared one for the democratic and communist paths. The communist path would kind of break my rule since I'm basically saying I can't be a puppet of one. I have to stay independent the whole time. Let me get a pair of nail clippers since... I think I've got a small break in one of my nails that I didn't notice. The path that would make me... Yes, sir. That would make me, like, basically a puppet of the Soviets is down the communist path. It's the one that begins with surrender the East. Hypothetically, I could go with the independent communist path, but, well... Oh, I'd rather not. There's also the democratic path down this, but, well... Democracies are actually kind of weak in Hearts of Iron 4. I'm skipping this one for now, since... and lastly, the last of the four I'm not going to do is the fascist path, since, well... the first option is I'd become a German puppet. It would be under this one. And while I could actually... And while there is an option to remain independent as Poland, and if you go down this path, the Phalangist path, the problem is that I'd want to actually have, like, experimented off-screen with that, and I haven't done that. Maybe one day, or hell, I'd probably actually want to do... a co-op game where, like, someone's Poland and I'm, like, Greece. And that brings us to the last option, which is the most outlandish at this time, the monarchist path. I'm going down this path, but I'm actually going to do a secret path, which you can't see right now. In fact, I'm only going to be able to go up to this one, then I'm going to have to switch over to other focuses, which are basically... actions your country takes as a whole. So yeah. Let's go. Oh. Now there are a few ways that the game could actually, like, deviate from history, even though I have the AI set to go to the historical path. One way actually involves Italy. Namely, if they do badly enough in Ethiopia, which is actually possible since Ethiopia itself has its own focus tree. they can actually get a civil war, which can turn them communist or democratic. Like, I'm not sure if it's only one or there's a chance of both, since I've only seen it happen once on historical. Like, if it's still like September and they're fighting, I'd say that there's at least a somewhat decent chance they might get a civil war. Or the second possibility involves Spain. Now, you're probably familiar with the Spanish Civil War, but in Hearts of Iron 4, unlike what you might expect, the Spanish Civil War can actually end up breaking out between a total of 4 factions. It'll start with 2, the Republicans, which are the current government in charge, and the Nationalists, the faction that eventually won. On historical, the Republicans will break into 2 factions, one of which is basically a Soviet puppet, and the other is a group of anarchists. Yes, you can go anarchist to Spain in this game. But the nationalists can also have their own civil war as well if they do poorly enough. In that case, the monarchists will spawn, the Carlists. If you don't know, Carlism is basically this belief that the current heir to the Spanish throne is, in fact, one who isn't the main line. Interestingly enough, the belief at the time was actually that at Alphonse XIII, who was the last king of Spain before they abolished the monarchy at the time, Spain still, and restored the monarchy later, is also the heir to the throne of France. I'm upgrading the intelligence center since while I need factories, this is very powerful if you know how to use it correctly. And I know how to do that. We have the Regency Council assembled. And we are now ruled by a chair. Or rather, an empty throne. This focus is, well, we're already locked to the monarchist path. This is the one that we actually have to, like, finish the second we complete. And gameplay-wise, it's actually a bit different than normal, since we'll actually have to, like, select some events. You'll see what I mean when one of them pops up. Oh yeah, we also have this strike that's looming, but I'm not worried about it since there is actually a way you can deal with it in the focus tree. We just gotta get this focus, and it's actually a lot easier than you might think. Since just roughly 5 months or so, a little under 5 months worth That means we can finally hire a spy. Who should we hire? I'm gonna go with Christina Skarbeck, since she's actually based on a real person. And I'm gonna send her to Germany for 2 reasons. First of all, I'll want to actually get their government infiltrated, since not only will it let me know what they're up to, but it'll also has a chance of giving me some political power. And second, I'll eventually need her to become a diplomat. We're working on those pills I can't say the name of. Or at least I probably shouldn't say the name of, since, while I'm not monetized now, I will be in the future, so... I'm not sure if the reason and it's not like, if it's just still taking time to fill up all the units, since I did switch some of them to the infantry template, or if I need to train more units. Kind of annoying. Wish there was like a way to tell you that you still needed manpower for your units. As in, you needed to fill it up. Okay, yeah, I've got enough manpower now for what I need, which... is actually this focus. Now, you might think that means I'm going down this path. I'm not. What path am I going down, you might ask? You'll see soon enough. Let's get these units exercised to full strength. In case you're curious what this wheel means they'll exercise until they hit the veteran mark. Anyways, please let me select the next focus and I'll explain. I forgot that the next focus actually adds infrastructure. Anyways, this is what I meant by that focus is assemble the Regency Council. Fulfill the 5th of November Act, that's the one I was talking about, would do different. Poland did not have, like, a king in the same way that the UK did. In fact, it was actually an elected monarchy, so yes, Naboo actually does have a historical precedent. And if you've ever wondered that about Star Wars. And the thing is, the way it works is that instead of sending out invitations... The Regency Council decides, you know what? If you think you have a claim to the throne, present it, and we'll make our decision here. Friedrich Christian was the candidate that was originally going to rule if the Central Powers had gotten their way. Basically, the Central Powers wanted to create a Polish state out of the territories that were held by Russia. But that kind of fell through, and as a result, the Republic of Poland was claimed. He's a decent candidate. It would be the most straightforward and would let me get to forming the Commonwealth faster than the others, but I'm going to say no to him. Because I have someone else in mind. There are 5 candidates you can have on the throne. Kind of 6, I'll explain, but I'm going for the one that's not present. The 6th one you need to go on is more of a replacement for one of the existing ones. You might have an idea of who this 6th candidate is if you're familiar with Polish military history during World War II. Let's just say the wait will be unbearable. If that didn't give the answer away, I don't know how to help you. Oh yeah, also, this is the trade law. This is one of the worst of the bad ones, like the United States also starts with a similar law. I can remove it much easier as Poland than I could remove the corresponding law of the United States, which is to represent although unlike the US, this is a trade law whereas the US has an economic mobilization law that's really bad. I'm holding out on spending any of this political power, because I want this guy. Or this one. Either is fine. Simply because they let me gain more political power. I'll probably get both of it. And also more stability, which means that it'll grow my political power even more. I'm starting to wonder if I should hold off. This is the second candidate. If you're familiar with European history, you might have heard the name Habsburg before. There was actually a Habsburg serving for the Polish military during World War II, and this option would actually allow us to make Habsburg Poland a thing. Doing so would allow us to claim Czechoslovakia, and if I had someone playing as, say, France, and France went monarchist, I probably would choose this path. But I'm not going to choose this guy. Hopefully by the time these factories finish building, and I'll have gone over to partial mobilization. And at least, maybe even war economy. In case you're curious, these railroads are how you supply your troops. It used to be that infrastructure and railroads were the same thing, but eventually they changed it. It's so, as a result, you can only have 5 levels of infrastructure as opposed to the original 10. This won't do anything right now, but when I do start occupying other territories, you'll see that it'll actually will be important, since I won't be spending as much to occupy them. Probably should have shown how much political power gain I was getting beforehand. But anyways, let's get rid of that looming strikes. This is the third option, and under normal circumstances, the most powerful. For you see, this would actually allow me to annex all of Romania, as well as gain Czechoslovakia and Hungary as a puppet. Basically, Romania and Poland have pretty close ties. And if you don't know, King Michael was the son of the king who's in charge at the start of the game. Some shenanigans happened, and King Carol replaced King Michael. Then eventually, King Carol abdicated, and King Michael came back. It's a long story. It's tempting, but I'm gonna say no. Although if I was playing co-op with someone who was playing as Germany and they went monarchist, I would choose this option. Huh. I only actually finished the war a bit early then in their test runs. I feel like that focus should do more. After this, I think I'll go for this research slot, and then hopefully I'll have enough for the National Defense Fund Spirit, which will basically eliminate a good chunk of the consumer good requirement. I have. Well, I do have a bonus for research to construction. Well, actually, let's double check. Yeah, you know what? Let's take it. Especially since and when I do get the National Defense Fund Spirit, it means I'll be able to benefit from it even greater since I'll have the tech earlier. You might be wondering why I'm stopping after 5 upgrades. Well, I now can get a second spy for free. In case you're curious, this I think is a bug. I'll just ignore it. You might be wondering why I'm not building anything in Danzig or Gdynia. That's because I'm going to be giving that up. And this, the fourth of the visible candidates. This is probably the one people know the least about, since he was actually a prince of... And from this part... From over here... we would basically be aligning with the Germans, and because... And I don't just mean like we'd be in the same faction, we'd be becoming a puppet. So, no. Now, you might be wondering, if I rejected it all 4 candidates, what does that mean? Well, we'll cycle through them again a second time. Well, so keep that in mind. Kind of wish it was like 9 candidates instead. Since I have seen people present other options. I'm disbanding that mainly because I want the fighters in reserve so I can gain some air XP, and besides, I am going to be replacing those fighters eventually, so if I had the new DLC, I probably would just sell them on the international market. I actually don't have any dockyards I can repair my ships at the moment. I'm just doing that so that when I do get at some, I won't have to remember to set at them. Could have sworn there was someone who had the seducer trait, which is the best, but anyways, let's infiltrate the German government. Before I do that, I'm going to eventually infiltrate the Soviet government, so I might as well get that set up. That does mean that I will have to wait a little since... Well, but the good news is that when that does... But the good news is that even if I have to wait for the intelligence network to be reestablished, I won't have to assign Christina manually. Okay, with the peasants' concerns met, and I'm torn between wanting more you know what? More factories and building slots are always a good thing. Plus, anyways, yeah, already explained the deal with this guy. Not going to repeat myself. Now, some of these you might find some of these focuses to be rather bare bones compared to others. That's because this is as Poland actually has had 3 e-focus trees throughout its history. The first, which is currently held by Denmark, or I guess the example I'm using, is the generic focus tree. It's decent, but could be better. The second was one which was up to the same standards as the 7 majors that started, but is not good by today's standards. And the third is the current one. I will be playing in the new DLC when it drops, as in case you're curious. Let's do National Defense Fund next. Nope. Partial mobilization. This means that not only do we construct factories faster, but we also get more of our factories is in use. And in general, we'll construct everything faster. Ironically enough, civilian economy, it gives you a debuff to civilian factory construction. I feel that it should be like UK at military factories should be the only thing that has a debuff. up until you hit partial mobilization, whereas you actually start with its standard civilian factory construction speed on civilian, and you'd gain buffs to that every time you went up on mobilization level. Would certainly make the game. Unless, of course, it was like the United States or something. Now, if I was choosing one of the first 4 candidates, I would have selected them on the first go-around. Honestly, yeah, I kind of wish that, like, if you rejected all 4 the first time, you could... a pop-up would say, hey... would just let you skip the option that I'm going to choose. 11 days until I find out if I gain political power from that infiltration or not. I did. I know the exact number of I can't see the exact specifics, but anyways, next up is trucks, which are kind of important to this playthrough, since aside from the fact that they're what you use to supply your entire army, I'm also going to be using them as my main offensive units. I'll need a few other things, mainly anti-tank weapons and some anti-tank guns, not like bazookas. Feels odd that you can't get the Curies, who are, you know, Polish, as advisors for Poland. Anti-ComIntern Pact. We'll be fighting the Soviets first, so yeah, let's join it. You might find it odd that I chose to sign the pact that would antagonize the Soviet Union, but did not choose the candidate that would do the same. I've got someone else in mind, and we're only at like a few months away from them. At least completing their focus. It's the focus that gives me them. It's possible that we'll get them before the event that gives me them beforehand. I could hire a military advisor, since that would give me army XP, which I do need. Let's actually do... Actually, that's a good idea, since the sooner I get an army XP, the sooner I can start designing templates. And while I will be fighting wars eventually, I might as well. Plus, he does give a stat boost overall. And I could also just choose the Professional Officers Corps, which, in addition to boosting command power gain, would also boost my army XP. Those accidents are something that you can't avoid. They will happen eventually. I mean, there's probably a combination of spirits in-game that would let me avoid them, but I don't know what that combination is, and I don't think you can get it as Poland, so... this is the candidate that I want. Anastasia Romanov arrives in Poland. And now, you might be wondering how this is possible, since the Romanovs were executed by the Bolsheviks. Well, long story short, you'll see how this plays out in due time. But anyways, we've once again changed our name, and we have a new leader. Who does not have a very good spirit. Feels like it should be crowns a queen, but whatever. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about the gameplay that I haven't already mentioned, feel free to ask. I'm gonna try and get both the anti-democratic and anti-communist and anti-fascist raids going. Actually, anti-democratic and anti-communist, simply because actually improved worker conditions might be a better idea. This only affects military factories, which, admittedly, isn't as and that desirable, especially since we need a lot of guns. But I'd much rather deal with slower gun production now than have to deal with a strike in the middle of the war in the future. What should I go after next? I already have the airframe, so let's get anti-tank guns on. And since I will want to eventually make some of those. Once I actually have some more factories, I'll go back to upgrading the intelligence agency, since while you can't gain any more spies from upgrades, unfortunately, I kind of feel that, like, you should gain an extra spy for every, like, 5 or so you do. Would actually give you reasons to, like, fully upgrade it, as opposed to, like, since there are people who I can see, like, skipping some stuff, like, I almost never go for plastic explosives or portable radios, since I don't really do those operations. Well, I am going to use motorized as my offensive units. I'll hold the line with infantry before you ask, and there's that civil war. Doesn't look like history will be deviating in Spain, unless, or for that matter, Italy, unless I didn't pay. Unless they only recently captured the parts of Spain that they need to control in order to stop the Carlist uprising. But I doubt that's the case, since kind of wish that they'd show, like, dissatisfied Carlists or something on the spirit screen, which would actually give you a small debuff. Well, while we may not be fully equipped, we are fully trained, which is something. After completing the spirit, we'll have 10% stability. We'll be better off in the stability department, since not only will this boost our ruling party popularity, which in turn means we're more stable, but it'll also grant us some stability in general, and also we'll gain a somewhat better trait. Although the real one that's better is this one. Oh, I should probably mention, we now have new focuses. These are the focuses I could do if I got the Romanovs. We can finally get it Professional Officer Corps, which means that not only will we have cheaper doctrines, which I'll be switching eventually. I want to get superior firepower, although Grand Battle Plan does give you some decent spirits. I'm holding off on doing Pan-Slavic revanchism since I'm not going to be justifying any war goals right away. Also, but at the time I wouldn't need the spirit, but I will want it eventually. Instead, rather, let's see if the Lithuanians want to fight me or if they'll cave. I'm hoping that they cave. Kind of feel that there should be a different description for this if Anastasia is in power. Like, prior to the collapse of the Russian Empire, Lithuania was one of the many territories under its control. With Anastasia Romanov in the throne of Poland, it's time she reclaimed one of her many one of her territories granted to her by her divine right or something. I kind of feel that I should at least get like some spirit that makes advisors cheaper or something. But yeah, as you can see, we've already got a pretty good amount of stability. We'll lose some of it when we go to war soon, but That's inevitable. This is a trick I like to employ to get a bunch of units out into the field. Create a single division cavalry unit, as cavalry trains the fastest, and just create a bunch of them. You can do this with the standard starting cavalry division if you want, but I prefer using regular in this trick because it's much cheaper. Also, aside from the fact that there's a manpower cap for the units you can have a training, so this allows you to get more total units. You can then convert them to something else, so all in all, better way of getting more manpower into the field. We'll probably have enough political power to up our conscription law by the time we go to war, so that's why I went with that one. Speaking of prep for war, let's get radios unlocked. In case you're curious what this means, I'm basically applying diplomatic pressure. Once Germany starts demanding territories from its neighbors, I'm going to want to get them to sign a non-aggression pact. I'm still going to give up Danzig, but it's more because I don't want... As in older versions of the game, apparently, if you didn't have a non-aggression pact with them, after you accepted their demands, they'd start justifying on Poznan or Katowice, which Germany used to control. I forget if the Hindenburg disaster occurred or not. The good news is that this applies... that this is a fixed bonus. It doesn't reduce, for example, if I was to gain in all of Lithuania, which will probably happen in a few minutes, either by... Speaking of which, let's see what happens. Of the territorial demands, this is the one that is the most likely to succeed. Does that mean armada is actually a Polish word and not a Russian one? I had a feeling that would happen. Anyways, I'm going to do something you might find a bit odd. I'm immediately releasing them as my puppet. Why is that? Doing this allows me to reform the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I'm going to go for 3 full army groups. Well, I did not gain any of their of Lithuania's generals. They didn't really have that many anyway, and I already have a decent amount. If I had gone with the Romanov path, I actually would have gotten Romania's generals, and I think... I'm building that because when I reform the Commonwealth, I'll actually claim parts of Germany. And as if you're not aware, countries do not like it when other countries claim their territory. Why am I not sending my other spy off to, oh, say, Italy to gain some political power? I'm going to start making collaboration governments in the Soviet Union, which means that it'll be easier to force their surrender. I'm going to be fighting them. Now, why did I choose this path? This focus. I'll core all of the Soviet Union, all of Yugoslavia, all of Bulgaria. I'm not sure all of Czechoslovakia, part of Germany, and maybe Albania, but also Bulgaria. Not Romania or Hungary, though, since those are not Slavic countries. Would be nice if they were. Because it would be fun to have complete borders. Then again, I guess I could, since I will be fighting Romania, I guess I could just annex them. I'm actually going to hold off on getting a non-aggression pact with them signed, simply because I'd rather not have the pact, them be able to cancel the pact before I can hand over Danzig. I am going to want to build some better fighters. Speaking of which, well, I did say I would be using trucks. I do want to actually make tank destroyers and another type of tank. Into a cell. Actually, let me look up something. Yep, if you don't know, this the guy who inspired the Sabaton song Inmate 4859. He willingly entered Auschwitz to get intelligence for the Allies. As he escaped and told the world about the horrors of Auschwitz, only for the Soviets to basically decide he was a traitor and force his country to sentence him. I'm not sure if it was just imprisonment or if it was execution. Oh yeah, unfortunately it was execution, like... But on the plus side, we can now switch over our economic law. I'll probably... I'm not going to establish a collaboration government yet, since I want... I don't think dockyards are affected by the economic law. Huh, they aren't. Neat. Well, Latvia actually does have a few docks in its possession. I might as well make one. If I go up to limited conscription, I'll gain more manpower, and as a result, I can switch over that third army. To infantry. Plus, I'll eventually gain more. This is the default template that you'd want to use. Like, Recon, I guess, is okay if you don't have anything else to put, but And now we have some actually good fighters to make, although I should probably change the model. I wish it would tell you how much manpower you need to fill out your divisions. Let's design the unit I'm going to use. Who's for when I take on the Russian. This is going to be my main offensive unit. You might think tanks would be better, although, but mechanized is actually better. Besides, I'm trying to prove that I'm better than the Wagner Company. Wagner Group? That doesn't really matter. If they're upset about me using the wrong name for them, screw them. Let's change. What's the color? Hindsight, I probably should have played it up until now off screen, then like I could have actually done more of this on stream. But you know what? I'm gonna do a two-parter on this like as a two-parter. So it's fine. Now, ideally, I would want Yugoslavia to accept and Czechoslovakia to be the one to actually refuse. Why is that? Well, if Yugoslavia accepts, Romania will have to waste forces conquering Yugoslavia, and when I conquer Romania, I'll get all of Yugoslavia back. And if Czechoslovakia refuses, I can essentially stop Hitler from annexing. I can essentially restrict Hitler's annexation to the Sudetenland, and he'll have to skip. if the fate of Czechoslovakia, which not only means Hungary is weaker, although I do plan on bringing them into my orbit as part of... Thanks. I'll get something. As part of this alliance. But I do eventually gain all in cores on the rest of Czechoslovakia later, so... You know, every time I've done this, I've always demanded Yugoslav subjugation last. I wonder if demanding it first will have any impact. Germany was about to say Germany's going to be annexing Austria any second now. Let's actually start our military-industrial complex buildup. British Malaya has the most, and we will not be fighting them. We won't be fighting them. And we can actually get them through a land route. They're perfect for this case. Might be wondering why I'm not declaring war on Yugoslavia. I'm going to fight a two-front war. Once I get my third spy, I'll start infiltrating the Union. Now, you may have noticed that I'm low on guns, but there is a very simple solution to that. We'll just start begging. There's quite a few countries that do not go to war under normal circumstances. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Tibet. Pretty much all of South America. Sweden. And although that's a bit harder since they're democratic, and democracies do not like it if you raise world tension, which I will be doing. And while they do technically join, Turkey stays neutral for quite a while. And I bring that up because they'll have guns. Once we can ask them for. And once I get more political power, I'm going to start begging. Because at the moment, we're not exactly in a good position. This will stunt our economic growth, but it's better that we start now. But the sooner we start, the sooner we'll benefit. Actually, it's engineer company 2s that I want, not... I will want logistics companies as well, but there's something different I have. Good. I'm going to wait until I get to Governorate of Livonia before I do the two-front war. Why this? Well, currently I have not generated any world tension. Meaning that that as long as I don't, say, justify on France or Italy, I can justify on anyone. Spain's fascist. Normally they're not aligned. Anyways, but if I start generating tension now, the British will start throwing around guarantees, and I don't want that to happen. And there goes goes the Spanish Republicans. I can't do this focus just yet. But when I'm able to, I'll actually start inviting countries to the alliance, meaning I'll have people to help me fight against the Soviets. I think my next batch of political power will be spent getting rid of embargoed economy, finally. In case you're curious why I'm putting collaboration governments in the Soviet Union, long story short, I would have to go all the way to Vladivostok if I didn't, or at the very least, like, the Urals. I'm not as concerned about the gun deficit now, since I'll just take them from the Latvians, Estonians, Romanians, and Yugoslavs. As I build more factories, my truck deficit will go away. Eventually I'll want 10 on rifles and trucks, maybe 15 depending on how well things go. I'll gain some factories from taking in Latvia since it's my cores. It's one of my cores. As well as Yugoslavia. I could justify on Bulgaria, but the problem is that I found that unless I was to, like, declare war on them and take them really quickly, they'll join the Axis. Besides, I actually want them around once I take down so that I can get into the war without bringing Japan up against me. I'm going to keep the game paused declare these 3 wars, since I don't want to risk the British guaranteeing. My plan for dealing with Romania is simple. Trap their forces, hold them off, and then I'll put... And then I'll have my motorized units, which hopefully will be fully supplied by the time I get there. I do need to do a little bit of micromanaging every now and then, but Not as many guns as I would have liked, but hey, it's something. It's not a matter of ensuring I can always advance. If I can pin units down, I can just walk around them. Unlike with Latvia, I'll actually allow Estonia to be independent for two reasons. First, I don't gain cores on it. And second, I'd rather not have to defend this tile, which can be attacked from 3 spaces. Plus, Estonia is will give me 40 stuff while if I'm their overlord. I'm doing Plan East, which is one of the many things that'll grant me the victory against the Soviets. There's a Plan West, if you didn't notice, and how that works is, and what they both do is basically Poland had plans for fighting the Germans, and basically, I'm not sure what the specifics are, but while fighting, if one is active, I can basically click things on the map that give my troops attack bonuses. Not like huge ones, but it's better than nothing, and also it'll actually... That put a sizable dent in my gun and my rifle deficit. Well, I can attack Hungary without the Allies getting involved. Doing so will have them join the Axis, and I do not want to fight Germany right now. I almost forgot I have an Air Force. Wow, sending in this motorized division was a great idea. That was stupid of me. What I'm doing is basically layering the forts in between my military factory constructions. This way I still construct fortifications while also ensuring my arms supply gets built up. Let's start getting our good relationships in. Oh wow, this motorized division is really a pain for itself. I can't request anything in Lend-Lease. I'm curious what the fastest division you could make is. Trying to remember if I have... Let's truck to Bucharest. Yugoslavia will be significantly easier than Romania, fortunately for me. And in case you're curious, I'll be puppeting Romania since... but I will be annexing Yugoslavia. You might find that an odd combination, but well... I already have max collab government on the Soviet Union. At this point, any more would be overkill. In case you're curious, the reason it's saying that they're justifying demanding Turkey is my you're true. Now the Turks are true friends of the Poles, and there is historical context behind that. The Ottomans actually were one of the few countries that actually objected to the partitions of Poland. You know what? I think I'm going to call it a stream here. And while while I will come back to this on Sunday when I'll do my regular stream, since I don't have something dedicated, I'll try and redo this off stream, basically get to the same point, except, well, earlier. But let's see what the awards I got are. But yeah, thanks for watching the VOD, since that's more likely the case. As with most of my videos, I'm Andreas Rebel, and I'll see you next assignment. Later.